What is up, A to Z Sports? We are live here. Sam Phelan alongside Jack Gentry, getting ready to get going with a very good show here on a Tuesday morning, discussing a topic that I think is very popular among sports fans, commonly discussed this time of year and brought up, and that is all the fantasy football gurus and NFL media just discussing breakout candidates, a breakout season, and who's in to have a big year. Jack and I are going to go over what exactly is a breakout season and then preview four different Titans offensive players that could have a breakout season in 2024, give you our picks for who is going to become a household name for the Titans this year. It's going to be a fun show, going to have a lot of back and forth. So, Jack, welcome in. I'm excited to get back in the saddle with you and do a show with you and tell the folks what to do before we kick it off.
It's been a while, Sam, since me and you have taken this thing under our wings. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Happy Tuesday to everybody in the chat. When you guys are filing in like you guys are now, I'm seeing nearly 100 of y'all in here. Don't forget to like the show. Drop a thumbs up on Facebook and YouTube. It helps us grow. It helps us reach new audience members. All that's great for A to Z Sports. I know you guys want the best for A to Z. Y'all are in here religiously every morning. So don't forget to like the show. Don't forget to share the show. Sharing is caring. If you're watching on Facebook, share it to your Titans groups on Facebook. I see all of y'all in there. I'm a part of like 15 myself, so you can't hide from me. If you just share it to one of your Titans Facebook groups this morning, we'll consider that homework complete. So if you don't mind, share the show on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, tap that bell icon near the top of your screen and turn your notifications on. Even though it's the dead period, you don't want to miss any updates from A to Z Sports' YouTube channel. The kings of content when it comes to the Titans. Turn those notifications on so you don't miss anything on YouTube. Finally, if you're watching on Twitch, text that Twitch link around. If you're at the office and you see a guy over in the cubicle next to you, half asleep, text him the link. We'll wake him up, talking a little Titans. If you're getting ready for work or know somebody who's getting ready for work, text that Twitch link out to them. Let's bring everybody in here as we all get ready to crush our Tuesdays together. And Sam, with that being said, let's get the show on the road.
All right, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Sam Phelan. He is Jack Gentry, and this is A to Z Sports, Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live on weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show tweeted out segment by segment on the Twitter X timeline, and you can also check out the TikTok, Instagram, and Threads for more engaging Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors this morning. They make it happen for us while they help out all of you. They are Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans, better coverage, better rates, better service. Learn more about a plan for you at fphp.com/ATOZ. And the Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. boneandjointtn.org is where to go to schedule an appointment with them. Jack, let's do this thing. Let's talk breakout players. And I kind of want to kick off the show by just discussing this concept as a whole, because as I said off the top, I think this is something that is frequently discussed. People say, who is a breakout candidate? You'll see your lists of, 10 wide receivers who could break out this year across the NFL, and fantasy football people, they're looking for their sleepers. Like, this is something that we talk about a lot, but it's not quantified. Like, this is not somebody can make an All-Pro or somebody can make the Pro Bowl or so-and-so might have a 1,000-yard season. Breakout is relative to an individual, to the individual situation, to their position. And I kind of want to go over this before we get into our predictions for breakout players. Is what is a breakout season? So I'll toss that to you to start it here. And just like, how do you define a breakout season, Jack? What do you consider to be a breakout candidate?
It's an interesting definition because I think everybody kind of has their own definition on this. But for me, what I'm looking for in a breakout candidate, and I was talking to you about this morning because I think we both have different definitions.
Yeah.
And I think that's totally okay. I think that you can have a different definition and still come to the same kind of crop of players. But my definition for a breakout player, I'm looking for a guy on a rookie contract, right? A guy who hasn't yet established himself in the NFL, whether he's in year 2, year 4, maybe even year 5 if he got picked up and he's a first-round draft pick. I think that all of those, I think that most of my breakout candidates kind of fall into that category early on in their NFL career. I'm looking for a guy who's going to have an increased role from last year to this year. Obviously, you bring in a new coaching staff with Brian Callahan, and some of these dudes on offense that were kind of hiding in the shadows a little bit last year might come to the surface, might do some big things with more playing time in 2024. I'm looking for a guy who's kind of under the radar. Obviously Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, some of the bigger names on offense, Tony Pollard, dudes who've been there, done that, 1,000 yards, whether it's rushing or receiving, they don't make my list. You can't be a Pro Bowl caliber player while also being, an up-and-coming breakout guy. So those two things don't mesh for me. So I'm looking for a guy who hasn't really, had that big season yet in the NFL. I'm looking for a guy with a unique skill set, somebody who kind of offers something that not a lot of other players on the team can do, and finally room to grow. It kind of goes along the same line with, dudes who haven't really had that big season yet. But I'm looking for a player who can take a big step in year 2, not kind of go from good to great, but go from under the radar to good, right?
Yeah.
I want a guy kind of that rises from the ashes, comes from the shadows, and has a breakout season. So those are kind of the checklist items that I've got for my breakout candidate.
I'm curious to see what the chat thinks here, because Joshua Hoffman says breakout is a young player who plays above average or better. And I don't know if I agree with that assessment, but I think that's why it's an interesting conversation before you get into names of who your breakout player is, of talking about what exactly is a breakout season. And I'm not sure I agree with you, Jack, in the sense that it needs to be somebody on a rookie contract. I think veterans can be breakout players. I think established veterans could be a breakout player. A defensive example for the Titans this year, I think it's possible for an Arden Key to have a breakout season. If Arden Key elevates his game to a level that he didn't exist before, Ken says, can they be on the defensive side of the ball? I think, the parameters are probably different for an offensive breakout and defensive breakout, but I obviously think there's breakout players on both sides of the ball.
For sure.
I just think the definition of a breakout player to me is somebody who enters a tier league wide that they didn't previously exist in. Maybe you are not a very good player, and then you have a really impressive season where now you're productive and you're pretty good. Maybe you're a pretty good player and you can have a breakout season and put yourself into elite company and go to an elite tier. I think it is somebody who has, elevates their game to a new level and gains some national recognition for their performance in that way. Like you said, I like under the radar, because I don't think after a breakout season, you're really under the radar all that much anymore. You bump it up a notch, but I think I'm pretty loose with what I define as a breakout season. I'll say this right now. He's not on our list later, but quarterbacks have breakout seasons all the time. If Will Levis came out and had a big year in 2024, is that a breakout season, or is that the expectation, Jack?
I think you can consider it a breakout season. I mean, Will Levis only has 9 starts in his NFL career, and I think that all Titans fans who watched even a half of one of those games will tell you that he wasn't exactly set up for success last season. So, and look, he's a guy that, I mean, we're seeing, it's list season, right, Sam? So we're seeing all these quarterback lists, all these quarterback tiers. And I haven't seen Will Levis. I think 20th, and maybe Zach Bingham had him at 20th, is the highest that I've seen Levis ranked. So I think Levis could absolutely be a breakout candidate. A guy like you said, kind of a little under the radar from the national media's perspective.
Yeah.
Will Levis has a big season, throws 25 touchdowns, maybe hits 4,000 passing yards. That's a breakout year for Levis.
So here's some other questions from the chat that I think are interesting. Bork says, can a rookie break out, or is that just arriving? My take, no. I don't think a rookie season
really
can be considered a breakout season. I think your rookie season is establishing what you are in the league. And then for me, a breakout season is being what I was, or what you thought I was, but boom, I'm taking it to another level. But you disagree, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, and when you're looking at the Titans, it's easy to say, Tajae Spears, you probably couldn't say he broke out last year just because of the role he was playing in. It's hard to break out behind Derrick Henry, right? But you look across the league, guys like Puka Nacua. I consider that to be a breakout season as a rookie.
Really? I don't know.
Just because of where his draft grade was, right? I mean, if he was a first round draft pick, you say, all right, well, I mean, that's kind of what you're expecting, or maybe a little bit better than that because he had a great season. But I think that Puka Nacua, day 3 guy, leading his team in receiving yards is absolutely a breakout season.
I think you have to just be able to exceed expectations for me to consider it a breakout. Puka Nacua, I feel like established himself as a rookie as a really, really good wide receiver. And so that becomes the bar. Not necessarily I think you have to set the bar, and then breakout seasons are raising the bar. It's a guy who has a bar that's relatively low, or maybe a bar that's somewhere in the middle, and you're kind of have one definition of them. And breakout is, hey, I've arrived. I might not have been able to figure it out before, but now I have arrived, and here's what I actually am now. And I don't think a rookie does that. This is a fun conversation too, and let's see if I can go back and see. Juan wants to know, Jack, who do you think had a breakout season last year as a potential example?
Man, I mean, it's hard to pick from the group of guys the Titans were rolling out there last year, right? I mean, you had so many new faces.
Breakout season for the Titans last year.
Do you consider Chris Moore to have had a breakout season last year? Made some big plays. I think he finished with 600 receiving yards.
Probably not, because I mean, it was the best. It was one of
that's what I'm saying.
Not the best year of his career, maybe on par with the best year of his career, but probably not. This is a good
Nobody
question.
really took the ball away on defense. Nobody really, broke out in terms of pass rushers. I mean, they moved on from everybody in the secondary besides Amani Hooker.
They might not have had a breakout season last year. And I mean, you don't have to have one. You're not guaranteed a breakout guy. And when a lot of stuff goes wrong, like they did for the Titans last year, but breakout season to me would be Harold Landry when he elevates his game and goes to 12 sacks or whatever. And as Kevin points out, back to my point about veterans, if a guy like Arden Key were to go over 10 sacks this year, I think that's a breakout season. That's Arden Key. We have a definition of what he is in the NFL, which is talented third down rusher, can go get after the quarterback, will give you 4, 5, 6 sacks a year, but kind of has some holes in his game. And if he bumps it up and becomes an elite pass rusher and announces to the NFL, hey, Arden Key has arrived on the national scale, that to me is a breakout year. Denico Autry had a great year last year. He had the best year of his career. He had double-digit sacks for the first time in his career. But was it a breakout season? I don't think so, because I think Denico had already established himself as a really, really good defensive lineman.
It's good to great jump, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good player having a great year is different than a player who you kind of assume doesn't have a great season in them until they do. So yeah, this is the fun conversation that I have.
Yeah, and everybody's got a different definition. Andre says a rookie can't break out. Breakout is breaking out of what you were. And
I agree.
MB says, who's talking about Puka Nacua? You have no idea how teams graded him. MB, we absolutely have an idea of how teams graded him.
We went in the 4th round or 5th round. Yeah. So I mean,
5th round pick.
You can just use his draft grade that way and say he was a 5th round pick.
But a lot of people in the chat, Sam, I mean, they're on Roger McCreary from breakout guys from last season. Roger McCreary was a rookie.
Denise says he allowed 0 touchdowns, which McCreary I would have given breakout. I think had he created a little bit more turnovers. Totally. I think the difference in a corner, it's also hard to judge when he's playing so much nickel. But I think the two ways to break out as a corner are not be targeted and have a Jalen Johnson or Snead-esque season where guys just don't throw to you very often because you're on top of dudes all the time, or have your Deron Bland and 8 interceptions and everybody goes, oh, you're kind of elite. It's kind of hard to judge a guy in the nickel all that frequently too. And I do think Roger had some he didn't allow touchdowns, but he was also guarding the slot, which isn't really frequently targeted in the red zone. And had some flaws against the run. So he improved. I think you could make an argument that Rodgers a good breakout candidate this year.
I agree.
But I don't know if I would have considered last year as breakout season. If we go back to the national argument, right? Who from anywhere else in the NFL other than the Tennessee Titans fan base and Tennessee Titans media was like, ooh, Roger McCreary, put that on your radar, put him on your map. Like, I don't think that happened last season.
Yeah, you got to be a real football junkie to know who Roger McCreary is from the outside of the AFC South picture, right? And I agree with you. I think that this year he'll have a better opportunity to break out. I mean, last year quarterbacks were just picking apart the dudes on the outside. Fulton, Avery, Gare, whoever was out there. Those were the guys that were getting eaten up. So McCreary,
it's easy to not allow a touchdown when Christian
have a lot of
six of them, and you're like,
now you've got L'Jarius Sneed and Awuzie this year. Okay, well, McCreary might see a little bit more action come his way because those two guys are going to hold it down on the outside. So this, like you said, Sam, I think could be Roger McCreary's breakout year where the NFL world really starts to recognize him. Kind of like that year Mike Hilton had a few years ago for Cincinnati. Just a few turnovers, maybe a few big ones late in games, and people will start to know who Roger McCreary is. I think this is a great opportunity for Roger McCreary to break through that ceiling and really establish himself in this league.
Look, Titans Kyle says you could say that about almost every Titans player. Big Jeff still gets overlooked. Welcome to a small market. Denise says the same thing. Tennessee, nobody ever for Tennessee because the national media hates us. I guess that maybe I've overblown the idea of like national media being relevant in this instance. For me, breakout is just like you become more of a household name. You become somebody that football fans know. And, you can do things on offense. It's a lot easier because of fantasy football, and
exactly
everybody in the NFL world plays fantasy football. And so it doesn't matter if you are the Tennessee Titans tight end. If you put up a big year and you're relevant in fantasy football, people are going to start knowing who you are. But I feel like it's part of this idea to me that you elevate your game to a level where you enter a new tier of players at your position across the league. I don't feel like Roger McCreary last year elevated his name to being like a solid top tier corner or top 2 or 3 tier corner. Like, I think he's a solid player. He's a good piece for this Titans defense, but there is still a ton of room for him to take it up a notch and announce himself with a breakout season as, hey, everybody's talking L'Jarius Sneed. Everybody's talking Cheeto Awuzie. But what about Roger McCreary? Because Roger McCreary has 5 interceptions or 4 interceptions this year, or is absolutely shut down. Like, that's the level of a breakout season for a cornerback that, lets people know. I don't want to go off of, I blew that up too much. So I'll walk that back, the idea of like national media, because there is some truth to that. Like MB says, the Cowboys are going to get a ton of publicity. And if you go off of publicity, there's going to be a Cowboys player that gets, the most attention every year.
And I do think team success to where, we saw a few chats say, the Titans never get the respect in national media. I think team success and specifically like your unit's success has a lot to do with how much recognition you're getting.
Yeah.
Right. Because if Roger McCreary is the best, corner or, nickel guy on the 27th ranked pass defense, nobody's going to care. Nobody gives a damn who the best player on the 27th ranked passing defense is. But if the Titans turn it around and now they're the 7th ranked passing defense, then Roger McCreary, a focal point of that passing defense, gets a whole lot more light, gets a whole lot more shine, and people start to, recognize that name and recognize Roger McCreary with being, one of the better players on one of the better pass defenses. That's where team success kind of comes in and helps you out a little bit.
It's kind of a funny comment from Hello Ladies, but I don't hate this definition either. He says, if grown men are wearing another man's jersey, it's a breakout season. And listen, I will just be the first person to put my hand up and stand up for jersey wears. I love jersey wearing. I think it's cool to wear jerseys. I'm not embarrassed to wear another man's jersey. I enjoy enjoying things and being a fan of sports teams. But just take this in the context of what it is of, like, who's walking around in a Roger McCreary jersey right now?
Nobody.
Even in Tennessee, nobody. Roger McCreary has a big, big year. and starts to establish himself as like an elite defensive player, you're going to start seeing a lot of McCreary jerseys walking around Nashville. And it's not like an offense-defense thing because there's a lot of Jeffrey Simmons jerseys out there. There's a ton of Kevin Byard jerseys still cycling out there. And those are guys that broke out. Like people own Harold Landry jerseys after his breakout season. So I think this is actually a good barometer from Hello Ladies. This is kind of like
it's funny, but it's also, I mean, there's a little bit of truth to it. And I want to ask y'all this because for the camp of rookies can't break out, what do you consider Ryan Stonehouse's year to be? His rookie season when he beat out Brett Kern and then set or broke an 80-year-old record.
That was
in the
Ryan
NFL.
Stonehouse telling the league, "Y'all slept on me.
That's a breakout."
I don't consider that a breakout. I consider that a great rookie season. That's all it is to me. It's a great rookie. It's a good punter having a great year. But that's how I view it, at least. I don't think a rookie can break out. But I do think the idea of, hey, people start buying your jersey, that's when you know
you're doing something right.
Like, there's a lot of people who are on the list that we're going to talk about in a little bit, Jack, that, I don't think a ton of people have their jersey right now. But one season, they might. You start putting up some big numbers, and they might. Let's go ahead and get into our big question, big debate for the show today, because we might do a defensive show on this topic later in the week or next week. But for today, I want to focus on the offensive side of the ball. Talk about these guys that are on fantasy football rosters and are getting all sorts of national attention because of that. And we want to ask all of you this. Who is the most likely offensive player to have a breakout season for the Titans in 2024? We're going to give you 4 options. So of these offensive players, who's most likely to break out? Treylon Burks, Josh Whyle, Chig, Tajae Spears. I think those are 4 of your offensive players that are going to get opportunity and have not already established themselves. Like, DeAndre Hopkins cannot have a breakout season. Calvin Ridley cannot have a breakout season. It's kind of hard to quantify an offensive lineman. So of these guys, we're not doing Will Levis. Who is most likely to have a breakout season? While the chat is go ahead and pouring in some of those, I'm going to tell you all about the Bone and Joint Institute. The Bone and Joint Institute is the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who to trust, and you don't want to fumble on your recovery. Don't fumble. Call our friends at the Bone and Joint Institute. They'll help you out with a state-of-the-art rehab facility located in Franklin. That's a one-stop shop for everything that you need. Clinic, rehab, imaging, surgery, testing. It's all there at the Bone and Joint Institute. They've got you covered. They've got great doctors and great care, and it's easy to get to, located in Franklin, right off the highway. So don't have to worry about a ton of traffic while you take your drive in. So go call the Bone and Joint Institute. Schedule your appointment with them. Go to boneandjointtn.org for your appointment.
BetMGM.com, guys, it's the dog days. We've officially entered the dog days of summer. But download BetMGM, and new users use our bonus code A to Z Sports, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Baseball isn't stopping. The MLB's in full swing. Now's the time to maybe scan the NFL futures. There's some player props up there, Titans-related player props up available now at BetMGM.com. College football season win totals. All of it's available on BetMGM, and it's all easy to find. So if you're looking for a new sports book or you're looking to make a change, download BetMGM and use our bonus code A to Z Sports to get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
All right, Jack, we asked the question, which Titans offensive player is most likely to have a breakout season in 2024? Treylon Burks, Josh Whyle, Chig, or Tajae Spears? I'll send you to the chat. What are the people saying?
Yeah, Deshaun's going to start us out on YouTube. He says Spears. Pistol Ramsey agrees. Spears from Darren. We've got Spears from Rooney. Spears from Titans Kyle. Chig from Denise. Spears. Tajae all day. Josh Whyle, our first Whyle answer from JR. We've got another Chig here. Tajae Spears. Chig. Spears. Spears. We've got Chig. It's Chig and Spears neck and neck in the chat right now. Jason says it's easy. It's Spears. Tajae, due to his flexibility.
Where's all the Treylon Burks love? Where's the first Treylon Burks answer? Find me that one.
the chat might be a little burnt out of the Treylon Burks discussion.
I'm not surprised.
Tajae Spears, end of discussion. Spears. There's a Treylon Burks from Tighten Up, Ohio.
Yeah,
A couple more Spears. Tajae's the only answer from J. Rome. Spears, Chig, Spears. All right, so Tajae Spears is the dominant answer in the chat.
Yeah. So I do think that, where you go probably depends on how you define the question that we asked earlier, which is how you define breakout. And depending on your perception of breakout, you can view these four guys very differently and how they, kind of come into 2024. So based off of my definition, which was somebody entering a new tier across, like, league wide, establishing themselves as like, hey, I was here, but really I'm right here and I'm letting you know about it right now. It's Tajae Spears. The chat is all over it. And I went and just, like, the craziest thing to me, Jack, about Tajae Spears having a breakout season is that he doesn't even really need to do anything differently than he did as a rookie. Volume alone is going to propel Tajae Spears to a breakout season. And I don't think you can say that about the other three guys on the list. Last year, as a rookie, Tajae Spears averaged 4.53 yards per carry. He had the ability to evade open tacklers. He often made something out of nothing as both a runner and a receiver. And so this is from a column I wrote on A to Z Sports, because if you take his 4.53, let me actually just establish this first. He had even 100 carries as a rookie, 4.53 yards a carry. That's 453 yards. Derrick Henry had 280 carries, led the NFL in rushing attempts last year. Even with Tajae getting 100 carries, Derrick Henry still led the NFL. And coming into this season, the assumption right now is that Tajae Spears and Tony Pollard are going to be running back 1A, 1B, interchangeable, as Brian Callahan likes to say right now, and they view them very even. So I just went through and said, okay, let's take those 380 carries between Spears and Henry from last season. Let's split them straight down the middle. Tajae Spears takes half, Tony Pollard takes half. That's 190 apiece. Well, what do we get? We get 860 rushing yards. And if you consider a slight uptick in red zone touches for Tajae Spears, you would probably get around 5 rushing touchdowns. And then I go on to add that because Tony Pollard is a viable pass catching option, gives Spears about the same production as a receiver that he had as a rookie, which was around 50 receptions and 400 receiving yards. That would give him close to 1,300 all-purpose yards as a second-year running back. Only 10 NFL running backs had 1,300 all-purpose yards in 2023. Tony Pollard and Derrick Henry were 2 of the 10. So you're talking about Tajae Spears doing exactly what he did as a rookie running back with just more volume and doubling his touches because Derrick Henry's no longer in this offense. And you could realistically have him finish top 10 in running back production and all-purpose yards. I think we are going to see a season from Tajae Spears where he goes from that fun backup in Tennessee where if Derrick Henry's hurt, you need to slide him into your fantasy football lineup because he might put up 15 points, to being a guy that, people are going to start taking note of in box scores each and every week. And I don't even put it past him to really break out and go a little bit more than 4.53 yards per carry and start having some explosive runs. Like, this is the year of Tajae Spears in the offense for me, and that's my pick for breakout candidate.
All right. DeMarco says if Spears gets close to or over 1,000 yards, then it's considered a breakout. See, that's where I disagree. And while I'm very excited about Tajae Spears in this offense next season, and I do believe that the breakout potential is absolutely there, he did have 838 rushing and receiving yards last year. That's a solid bar to set for a guy who's playing in kind of a limited role and not having, the bell cow label, which is, I don't think it's a label that fits Tajae Spears, for the record. I just wonder if that makes it a little bit more difficult on him to kind of go above and beyond with Tony Pollard also there.
But
so that's my concern.
I would say this because, number one, I think Tajae Spears showed me last year that he doesn't have a problem being the guy. There was a couple of games that Derek was out for or hurt during, or games that Derek just didn't come into the game because the Titans were playing from behind and Tajae took a lion's share of the workload. And I think he can be a 3-down back. I think he can be, your bell cow. And he's not the same bell cow as Derrick Henry in the sense that you're going to pound it up the middle like over and over and over again. But I think the way that the NFL running back plays is kind of shifting. Like you're starting to see guys like Devon Achane and like Raheem Mostert and these faster backs. Even Christian McCaffrey is like the best back in the league, is not your big, bruising, physical running back. He finds his holes and is versatile in the passing game. I think Tajae is that. But let's also not forget that the best football of Tony Pollard's career also came in a season where he was splitting carries. The big 2022 season, Tony Pollard was a 1,000-yard rusher for the first time in his career. He made the Pro Bowl with Dallas. He averaged 5.2 yards per attempt, and everybody said, hey, that was Tony Pollard's breakout season. How many carries did he have? 193. That's the exact kind of mark that we're talking about here if you're splitting 380. Titans Kyle says, do you think this offense will run it 380 times? Probably not. And I don't know about that. Like, yes, Brian Callahan's offense is going to be more pass heavy than Mike Vrabel's offense. My personal opinion, they'll be playing with a lead a lot more than Mike Vrabel's offense. And they'll be running the ball when they play with a lead a lot more than they've done in the past. So I do think that kind of goes back the other way as well of, hey, they're
not going to run it 380 times, though. They're going to use the passing game as an extension of the running game. I mean, we saw how much quick game Callahan liked to use up in Cincinnati with Burrow and Browning because the offensive line wasn't good enough. That's another thing. It's hard to run it that many times with a shoddy right side of your offensive line.
380 would put them towards the top of the league. Actually, no, it would not at all. Guess where 380 ranks as far as rushing attempts in the NFL?
13th.
31st.
31st. Really?
Number one was the Baltimore Ravens with 541. Chicago, Atlanta, Cleveland, Buffalo, Philadelphia, and Detroit were all over 500. Now, this is factoring in your like quarterback runs and different things like that, which, start to add up. But I don't think it's crazy to think that the Titans could have 400 rushing attempts from their running backs. Like, I don't think that's crazy at all. When you look at league averages and stuff, the Titans last year actually had 444, which was below league average as far as rushing attempts.
That is surprising to me. That's great context, though. Good stat right there.
So you use that for context of, are they going to run it 380 times throughout the season? I think so. Like that shows you, like, even in a Mike Vrabel offense that was all about running, if you're playing from behind, there's only so much running of the football that you can actually do. The teams that like were at towards the top of the league are Chicago and Atlanta, teams that built their offense around the running game. Baltimore, Cleveland, Buffalo, Philadelphia, Detroit, San Francisco, teams that were up in games and winning games. So, hey, 380 rushing attempts split at 190. Tony Pollard gets right around the best, like, happy medium of his career. Tajae Spears almost doubles his workload. Maybe we start to see 800 to 900 yards. And that, to me, breakout season.
Where did Cincinnati rank on that list, just before I give you my answer?
Cincinnati they had 383 attempts last year. So they were 30th in the NFL.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. All right. My breakout candidate is not Tajae Spears. I'm kind of going along the fantasy route a little bit, but I think that Josh Whyle is a guy that's going to really break out for the Titans in 2024. Kind of an under the radar pick here, because a lot of people, I believe, are hoping that Chig breaks out, but Chig's had time and opportunity and hadn't really pulled away. Josh Whyle, he's not going to have the same volume, right? But I think impact by volume is where Whyle can really stand out. Like, he's not going to catch 50 balls, but if Josh Whyle catches 25 and 6 or 7 of them are touchdowns, that's a breakout season for me. And I think it's very possible that he can do that. He's got a good rapport on and off the field with Will Levis. Caught 9 balls for 94 yards and a score last year. But only played on 23% of the offensive snaps. And here we have a quote from Nick Holtz said he's had a great offseason. I'll start with that. Josh has really good ball skills for a big guy. So that kind of target, especially in the red zone and on third down and things like that, he's more of a matchup problem than he's probably given credit for. So we'd love to get him in some of those one-on-one situations because he has so much height and he's really good ball skills. Both of those things are huge. And you're talking about a Titans offense. Look, Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins, they're going to get blanketed on the outside. So who's that guy that can separate in the red zone and give you an option? Well, I think that Josh Whyley's that guy. I think that he can be a security blanket for Will Levis. Played just 23% of the snaps on offense last year. I think that there's a chance that his snap count doubles in 2024. We're already hearing how much this coaching staff likes him.
Yeah.
And I think he's got a really unique skill set, and his role in the red zone is going to be one that the Titans should take advantage of. So Josh Whyley's a guy. He's not going to put up 800 yards. He's not going to put up 50 catches, but I think he's going to be, second or third on this team in receiving touchdowns if his snap production does double like I think it will. And, he gets on the field for about half of the snaps on offense. I just think the impact he's going to have in a semi-limited role is going to help him break out in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, Bork is correct here. Tight ends do typically take a year or two to really adjust and acclimate to the NFL and establish themselves. I think Josh Whyle, for me, it's all relative here. Breakout season is relative. I don't think there's much of a shot Josh Whyle becomes a nationally relevant tight end or somebody who is on fantasy football radars. I don't think that happens this season, but I do think he's kind of overlooked even amongst Titans fans right now. People kind of forget about Josh Whyle and cast him away and say, all right, Chig's the tight end. And Josh Whyle wasn't really around as a rookie. He didn't have a huge impact. I do see that changing. I do think there is a very real world where Josh Whyle becomes a big part of this team and a very relevant part of this team, even if the volume isn't necessarily there for him to be a nationally recognized tight end. There was a lot of times last year that he did link up with Will Levis, and you started to see Josh Whyle gaining a little bit of momentum. Then there was injuries to both Will Levis and to Whyle himself that, really slowed that sort of development. But big target in the red zone, third down, to me, the impact that he could have, think Austin Hooper would be where I go. Think Austin Hooper with the Titans. Which is not a bad thing. I mean, Austin Hooper took a little bit to get going in his 1 year here with Tennessee, but ended up late in the season becoming the go-to guy on third down. That was a safety valve for Ryan Tannehill that he trusted really well. And that was in an offense that did have Chig. Austin Hooper had 41 catches, 444 receiving yards for the Titans. And so
that would be a breakout year for Whyle, right?
That would absolutely be a
444 yards.
And that's what I'm saying. It's relative because it's not a national breakout season. And Josh Whyley's not going to have a season this year that, fan bases of non-Titans fans are sitting there being like, ooh, Josh Whyle, good little tight end. But if you're watching Titans games and you're understanding the impact that he has as a blocker and third down option and these kind of pieces, then that could be the impact. And Jaron, I'm not comparing this to the Hooper breakout season. I'm comparing this to the impact on the field as far as Austin Hooper didn't overwhelm anybody. You never went into a game being thank God we've got Austin Hooper playing Titans football right now. But there was a couple moments a game that I would sit there and be like, "What? Hey, look at Hooper coming up big on third down. Look at Hooper in the red zone. Look at Hooper making a nice block." So it's a lower bar for a breakout than Tajae getting a bump because Tajae to Titans fans is already that dude. They know how good he is. They know how impactful he can be. Now Tajae's breakout season is going to a national scale.
Pro Bowl, probably.
Yeah, like I said, if he puts up some of those numbers, he has 1,300 all-purpose yards. You're talking about top 10 running back production and becoming nationally relevant. I think Whyle is going from a nothing to a something that Titans fans start to recognize. All right, this dude is, a really good pick, and then you take it from there.
Yeah, and I think that the Titans tight end position has a little bit of Derrick Henry, Tajae Spears to it last year, right? Like when Chig's on the field, it's more than likely a pass. But Whyle, who's kind of more of the Tajae Spears like versatility role, like you throw Whyle out there by himself, you have no idea what's coming because yeah, sure he's 6'7", but he's also got great hands and can make a difference with a linebacker on him.
Hey, they kept throwing that Derrick Henry jump pass to Josh Whyle.
Right?
That was like one of they liked that call.
There's a little bit of unpredictability with when you're talking about the play calling. So like when Wiley's on the field, you don't know whether it's going to be a run or a pass. But with Chig out there, you kind of have an idea it's more than likely a pass. But that's why I think that Wiley's playing time is going to go up this year, because just by having him out there, it's hard for defenses to really get a gauge on whether the Titans are running the ball or passing the ball. He kind of hides some things. And I think the Titans and Brian Callahan are going to use that to advantage. And that's going to help Whyle get on the field more and have a bigger impact on the Titans this year than a lot of people are expecting.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of to put it into reference, Josh Whyle played 11 games last season. He had 156 offensive snaps played, which was about a quarter of what Trevon Wesco got in the Titans offense and was about even to what Kevin Rader got. Kevin Rader had 146 offensive snaps played to Wiley's 156. So for a guy that played 146 snaps, though, he had 15 targets. He was targeted 10% of the time that he was actually out there. Now you start to talk about, okay, well, what if Josh Whyle plays, I don't know, 400, 500 snaps, right? Now you're talking about 50 targets coming his way. And 50 targets for Josh Whyle could be a really impactful, like 25, 30 catch season, with a lot of those coming in the red zone. So I don't hate this pick. I think Tajae's far more likely to me. I think it's a bigger scale, but I like that you're giving some shine to Josh Whyle here, Jack, because I think this is not a name that we can forget about. Like, I think Titans fans, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, I was thinking tight end, and I'm like, yep, Chig's the tight end. And there are just a handful of players on this roster that you kind of forget for a minute. Oh, he's here too. And I can't fully overlook him. Like, he could have an impact on this team.
Right? Like, I think Josh Whyle is one of the Titans role players that is most, that probably is receiving the biggest boost with this new coaching staff. Like, I'm trying to think of other role players in this offense who are going to benefit the most with the changing coaching staffs.
Yeah.
And I think that Wiley's one of those guys, because the last staff didn't really use Whyle a whole lot. Maybe they didn't know how to use Whyle a lot. But
I think
with Callahan, he's a little bit more creative, and I think that's where Whyle can really make a difference for the Titans.
I do have a slight counterpoint, and then I want to talk to the other two guys that were on our multiple choice thing. But before I do it, I want to tell everybody about our friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau Health Plans, better coverage, better rates, better service. Learn more about a plan for you at fbhp.com/ATOZ. Farm Bureau Health Plans has been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years, and a lot has changed in Tennessee over the years, but some things just always stay the same. Farm Bureau Health Plans is one of those things because they've always valued personal relationships, especially when it comes to good health and good service. You can plan on them for health, dental, and vision for better rates, better coverage, and better service. Go to fbhp.com/ATOZ or walk into one of their 200 plus locations across the state. That's fbhp.com/ATOZ.
BetMGM.com, the king of sports books. Guys, I already talked about what you guys can get in on in the offseason with football just around the corner. Don't forget to get those futures in. I know the Titans are being disrespected out there with a low win total. If you think they're going to soar over like I do, download BetMGM and use our bonus code A to Z Sports and drop a bet in there. New users, you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets when you sign up with our bonus code A to Z Sports. So don't forget to do it. It's a great promotion going on right now. And BetMGM is one of the easiest apps to use for new users. They've got parlay selection features, live betting options, boosted odds specials, and it's also easy to navigate. So if you haven't checked out BetMGM, I encourage you to do so, and I encourage you to use our bonus code A to Z Sports.
All right, Jack, a couple of counterpoints here that I just want to get your take on and see if it's something that you are worried about at all. You mentioned kind of Brian Callahan and his new offense. I would point out the fact that Brian Callahan in Cincinnati traditionally has not been very fond or has not used much of a tight end before. Like Hayden Hurst had some success there for a little bit, but the tight end was not really a feature of this Bengals offense. And so we have kind of yet to see how Brian Callahan incorporates a big target tight end. I mean, who's the closest example that they had in Cincinnati over the last few years. They had
Eifert, if there was crossover there, I'm not so sure
maybe
if there was.
Eifert or maybe what's the guy's name? He went to the Jets.
Uzama, CJ Uzama.
CJ Uzama, I guess, would be a decent example.
Both were solid guys. But like
he's
when you
6'5",
have
271.
But when you have a big three at wide receiver, of course the tight ends, not going to see a lot of attention, right? I mean, when you got guys like Jamar Chase,
Sure.
T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, and a young Tyler Boyd for most of the time in Cincinnati, like the tight end's going to get left out a couple times. But there will be games. Like Whyley's not going to be a consistent, 30 yards a game, 40 yards a game guy. But he's going to have games where they're going to have to lean on him, and he's going to see a whole lot more action than, teams with a good secondary. Like if Hopkins and Calvin Ridley are taken care of on the outside, or maybe there's a slow linebacker in the middle that the Titans can take advantage of and exploit, then Whyle can have big games. They don't have to be regular. But if he can have, a 2-touchdown game against the Texans, go for 75 receiving yards against the Colts, just different big games here and there, I think we're going to see him put together a more respectable season. And just usage rate has a whole lot to do with that.
All right. Well, I do want to get into the other two guys on our list real quick before we go ahead and head to throwing shade. And those are Chig and Treylon Burks. And we don't need to go off the deep end into like what, how likely it is for these two dudes to break out. Clearly, not many people selected Treylon Burks. I think the history has been pretty deeply discussed. We know what's kind of going on with Treylon and where he's at right now. My bigger question, Jack, is what does a breakout season look like for each one of these guys? Like, what would it take for you to consider, Treylon Burks just had a breakout season. He had 33 catches, 444 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown as a rookie, dropped down to 16 catches and 221 receiving yards, did not score a touchdown in his second season. 11 games in both of those 2 seasons and has dealt with some injuries. What does Treylon Burks have to do? Does being a former first-round pick also play a factor here for you to consider it a breakout year for Treylon?
Well, I don't think so. And I think, I can kind of use a little bit of your definition here. He's kind of set a low bar for himself. So Treylon Burks breaking out as a wide receiver 4 and maybe even a wide receiver 5, depending on how NWI is deployed.
Or wide receiver 3.
Yeah, but you did go get Tyler Boyd. But
I mean, Tyler Boyd's old.
So a breakout season for Treylon Burks to me would be 500 receiving yards. I mean, that would be like, okay, we've got a guy that we can use. We can trust him a little bit. Yeah, 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. I'll call that a breakout year for Treylon Burks. And it's sad that the bar is that low now, but that's where the bar is. So, yeah, and it's really hard. I think that in order for Treylon Burks to truly break out, I think that one of the guys, Calvin Ridley or DeAndre Hopkins, is going to have to miss a few games. And that's not what I want.
More than a few. Yeah, I agree. I think the way that Treylon Burks has a breakout season is manifesting this doesn't happen, but it's like, all right, Calvin Ridley goes down. Calvin Ridley's out for the rest of the season, or Calvin Ridley's missing half the season. It's bedlam in Nashville. What are the Titans going to do without Calvin Ridley? Oh no, it's horrible. Treylon Burks steps up and fills that role by being like a consistent producer and has 70 yards a game. And you start to realize, oh, we're okay. Like we were able to tread water without, Calvin Ridley because Treylon Burks stepped up. But I don't see where the big season comes from unless you're in that offense consistently, even as the number 3. Let's just pretend he wins the number 3 job, because I do think that's not an impossibility. Tyler Boyd, from everything I've heard around the league, aging, not really capable in against man coverage anymore. He's more, go out against the zone find
buster.
Find your little spot, get a first down. He's not going to be super productive against man coverage. He's lost a step. So I don't think it's impossible for Treylon to win that 3rd receiving job. But even if he is that number 3, there's 100 targets going to Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins. Probably 150 targets going each of their ways. Like, they're going to combine for a vast majority of your, pass attempts because you're paying them. And not only are they great and established and veterans for Will Levis to throw to, but you gave them that money that you gave them for a reason. And I think Brian Callahan wants to use that speed and reliability. where he's, Treylon Burks has not proven to be reliable in any way. So right now, I don't know where that big season comes from unless he ends up on the outside having to be forced into a primary role within the team. I would say, like, I just think it has to be a little bit more for me to even be like, yeah, it's a breakout season. Like, I think it needs to be 600, 700 receiving yards and like maybe even more importantly, I want Treylon Burks to score. Like, you are, let me get the measurement, 6'2", which is probably a little bit low. Like, I think he's probably 6'3", 6'4", 225 pounds with explosive athleticism, speed. Score some touchdowns. He's got one touchdown. I would like to see Treylon Burks. Yeah, maybe it's 400, 500 yards. Give me 6 scores. Like, be a red zone threat.
Wow,
and then I'll be
6 scores.
He's a first round pick. That's huge. Be a red zone threat, or at the very least, catch the deep balls that are thrown to you in like the one area that they do trust you and do give you opportunity.
Find your pocket and do it well, right? So, like he's got to find a role and excel in that role. But Ken brings up a good point in the comments, Sam. Titans do have 3 30-plus receivers. Playing 17 games, getting 17 games out of all 3 of those guys. Yep. And remember, they're teaching Treylon Burks every position. So he could very well be the next man up, whether it's Ridley, Hopkins, or Boyd that needs to miss some time.
Very, very realistic, very good point from Ken is like we could be sitting here week 4 and Treylon Burks is a primary part of this offense. So, we'll see. I think, the good news for Treylon is that the bar is so low that he has nowhere to go but up. And that sounds like demeaning. I don't mean it that way. I mean it very genuinely. I think there was a lot of pressure on him coming out of Arkansas, first round pick, replacing AJ, all of the shenanigans that we've talked about in the past. And that doesn't really exist anymore. He's kind of an afterthought. You're looking at Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins and even Tyler Boyd to an extent and saying, carry us to a better, more productive season. And so anything Treylon does, if he has one catch for 40 yards in a game, everybody's going to say, ooh, hey, Treylon, nice. Good job, Treylon. Nobody's going to be saying, all right, but where's the rest of it? So I do think he has that playing in his favor. Pressure is off. Go have fun. Go play football. No worries.
We both agree, though, there's going to be multiple games where the Titans are going to need Treylon Burks.
I mean, you hope not. You hope you get 17 out of Ridley and Hopkins, but
realistically, they'll probably need him a couple times.
It's a violent sport. Guys are going to get banged up. And, if Hopkins is out or Ridley's out or Boyd's out for a game, maybe that's the day that Treylon steps up and has a big impact and shifts the perception of him a little bit. Real quick, Chig, 54 catches, 528 yards last season. As a 1 touchdown only for Chig, but did set a career high in receptions and yards. What does Chig have to do for it to be a breakout season?
Consistency out of Chig, man. I mean, he didn't have over 35 receiving yards in a single game until week 11, but then had at least 35 receiving yards in every single game except for one in which he had 34 receiving yards for the last 7 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
He's got to start hot. We wanted him to start hot last year. It was just so slow coming on.
I would add consistency, and this is not quantifiable in the stats, but consistency is a blocker as well. We've heard for 2 years now, there's a really talented athlete who continues to be improving as a blocker, and it hasn't gotten all the way there yet, but let's take that next step as a blocker, and as Darius says, catch the damn ball. Let's just
needs the ball in his hands. Then he'll take off. That's when he's great, is when he has the ball in his hands.
54 catches, 528 receiving yards for Chig last year. I think he's well over 60 and 600 if he squeezes some of the easy ones. He's not necessarily just dropping, hey, I'm 10 yards downfield, it hits me in the chest and I drop it. He dropped a couple of balls that I looked at and said, ooh, he would have been running for a real long time had he just held on to that one. So, and then I do agree with J. Rome here as well. I think he needs to score touchdowns as well, as a tight end in the league. In order to be, in that next tier of tight ends, you have to be relevant in the red zone. 1 touchdown a tight end is not good enough. You have to find a way to have a bigger impact. And maybe Whyle hurts him in that capacity because Whyle is that bigger red zone target. Chig's more of your speedy athlete. So Chig probably only scores 20, 30-yard touchdowns that are like instead of finding a jump ball. But I would like to see him score that just in general. I think that would go a long way towards taking that jump to national relevancy that we talk about. Like you can have 500, 600 yards and be a nationally relevant tight end if you can get in the end zone 5 or 6 times.
And the 2 touchdown sets for the Titans next year have the potential to be deadly. I mean, because both Whyle and Chig can do things that the other cannot, right? Whyle, jump ball guy, red zone guy, possession dude, can go get the ball at the high point. Chig, run after a catch ability, has a speed advantage on essentially anyone who's going to be matched up against him. Like those 2 guys out there, if used properly, could really be the difference and take the Titans over the top in 2024.
Yeah, as much as we were just giving all that love to Whyle, I'm not necessarily out on Chig. I want to watch more of Chig. Jimmy says Chig has the ability to be a great tight end, just needs to polish his skills a little. Like, I'll remind everybody, what was the comp for Chig? A Titan's great that had comped Chig to himself. Delaney Walker has been walking around comping Chig to himself. And how long did it take Delaney Walker to break out? 7 NFL seasons?
He was a special teamer starting out.
Like, it took him a very long time to really put it all together. And so, hopefully Chig expedites that timeline a little bit and has something right around the corner.
Real quick question for you.
Sure.
Chig's got the higher ceiling of the 2, right? Chig
Correct.
And Whyle. You think Chig has the higher ceiling? Whyle more of a situational guy?
Because I do think so. Yeah, I think, I'm not going to necessarily put a cap on Whyle. I think size as a tight end is invaluable, like can't really be measured of like just how important it is if you know how to use it. There's very few guys that know how to use it. Like Whyle is a different type of tight end than Chig. And, I think we kind of know the difference. And you see a guy like George Kittle is more of like your Chig in the sense, like as like the high end version, which is super fast, kind of a wide receiver, but can get nasty and block downfield and just do all of these little things that make your offense go crazy. Like that is a perfect world when Chig perfects all of his skills. He's George Kittle. Whyle, the high-end comp is Travis Kelce, and it's just a big old dude that knows how to use his body, doesn't create a ton of separation, but gets a good rapport with like his quarterback and knows where to be. I don't think Darren Waller is a good comp because Darren Waller is a freak in like size wise and stuff. I think, but like there's different types of tight ends in this league. I think in general, because we know that Chig can already be a good wide receiver and can be explosive with the ball in his hands, I think his ceiling is higher. So that's kind of how I view them right now.
And Rice School asks, Sam and Jack, do you think it'd be possible to keep Chig and Whyle for multiple years to allow them to develop? They've got them for the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think they will keep them for multiple years. I mean, you need 2 tight ends in this league. Straight up.
And like the guy they brought in is a one-trick pony. He's a blocking guy.
Yeah, but every team likes to have 3 tight ends, and usually one of them is a strict blocking guy. But you like to have at least 2 so that you can run like heavy sets, heavy personnel, and also have couple of guys that are interchangeable for what you're trying to do. And I think the Titans do plan on, they drafted Josh Whyle for a reason. They didn't draft Josh Whyle to replace Chig. They drafted Josh Whyle to complement Chig. And so I think they will both exist and coexist together. So, all right.
I think that was a good
Let's
discussion.
go ahead. Let's get to the end of the show here. Let's get to throwing shade, something that I have not done in a very long time. And I've got a very good one for it. Let's do it. All right, it is throwing shade here on a Tuesday morning, and shout out to all of our sponsors and our end of show sponsor powering our last segment of the day. They're Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Jack, we're throwing shade. So everybody in the chat, get your shade out. I'm loving all of the shade early. Do you have something top of mind, Jack Gentry, that you want to go ahead and hit me with on a Tuesday morning?
Yeah, I do. And it might be old man shaking fist at cloud, but I was watching the game 7 last night, Stanley Cup, right? And there were Florida Panthers fans, obviously, front row seats, you're on the glass. But after that big goal by Sam Bennett, I think it was, that second goal from Florida, there was a fan, there were multiple fans doing this, but they were behind the net. And it's kind of the age we live in, but you're in a game 7 and your team's attacking at the goal right in front of you, but you're recording the entire thing on your phone. Like, that's a situation. I mean, that's a moment you're probably never going to ever forget. And I don't know. I think being on your phone when you've already got, seats on the glass, like what more do you need to record? You essentially have the television copy right there in front of yourself.
So what was this? You were watching and you saw a video on the TV broadcast of somebody.
The fans behind the goal would have their phones out in game 7. And I get it. You want to document it. You want to, you were there. It's a big moment for you. But I just feel like that moment is best celebrated off your phone with your phone in your pocket.
What moment is this?
Having your favorite team score a goal on the goal that's right in front of you in a game 7 Stanley Cup final.
So it's after the goal songs go and the celebrations go and people pulled out their phones.
Then you pull out your phone after the goal. That's okay. But when the goal was scored, like they were videotaping like the action in front of them. You just got to live, man.
It's going to be a sick video.
Bryce says, sure, but be present in the moment. Like it's game 7, your favorite team. I don't know. I would be going crazy. I would not have my phone out.
Yeah, I think there's a happy medium here. I think you get to your seats, you pull out your phone, you take a couple videos of a couple different like offensive possessions and make sure that you have it on video and be like, hey, remember what this looked like? I was there. And then it has to go away. I mean, it's like, this is what I do at a concert. People that record concerts always get shade thrown at them, so I don't have to do that. But when I go to a concert, I will be like, all right, maybe there's 1 or 2 songs that I love. And when that song comes on, I will record or have somebody record. That's the real hack. Have somebody with you at the concert that doesn't care as much as you do. Have them record. You get like one chorus or one part of the verse, quick record, phone goes away. We don't need to watch the concert through the phone for the entire song. It's like 1 or 2 things throughout the entire show just to have a memory of what it looked like through your eyes and a reminder that you were there. And then you have to experience the rest of it authentically. Like that has to be a live in the moment type of thing.
Recording etiquette matters.
That would be a sick video though. That would be
I get it. It would be a great video, but recording etiquette matters. I think you record warm-ups. And then if you're a true fan in game 7, I mean, there's nothing that matters outside of what's happening right in front of you.
Listen,
like the optics, the social media, whatever, likes, whatever you can get.
Sure.
If I'm a Preds fan on the glass, game 7 Stanley Cup final, I won't know where my phone is. I mean, you could probably pull it out of my pocket and run away with it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have a clue.
I do agree. I'll be throwing shade at one of my good friends right now. My good friend that is a Chicago Cubs fan that was at game 7 of the 2016 World Series with his dad in Cleveland, watching the Chicago Cubs win the World Series in extra innings and breaking the curse. One of the most iconic sports moments that will ever exist ever. Like the Cubs winning the World Series is going to be famous for the rest of time. And he did film it. He did have a video of the final out. And while I can appreciate wanting to capture the final out, brother, there are going to be videos of that final out all over the place. You got to experience that final out with your dad as authentically as possible. And just like
score does matter, I think, in certain, because if you're up by 3 or 4 runs.
Oh, fair. No, but it was like 7-6 with the tying run on second base in extra innings. It was a tight deal here. So I would say that one for sure. The hack is having somebody there that doesn't care as much as you, that can film your reaction to it while you are living in the moment. That if you have that luxury, you have to use it. But other than that, I think that's the way to do it. And I deal with this for my employment all the time. There are a couple times, like I go to Titans games and something dope happens and I'm looking at it through my phone because I'm capturing it for content purposes. And then I'm thinking back on it being like, yeah, that would have been a cool thing to just like appreciate what was happening. Like end of the season last year, Derrick Henry coming into the tunnel, like leaving Nissan Stadium for the first time. I'm following Derrick with my phone, videoing it. And I'm like, I don't have much of a recollection of it. I just kind of remember trying to get the shot and trying to get the video. And I'm like, that was a Hall of Fame running back, like kind of doing a cool, like iconic thing. I was in Chicago for preseason week 1 last year. I ran out of the tunnel with Will Levis, like following behind him. Dope video. But I was also in my childhood football stadium at Soldier Field, running out of the tunnel with an NFL team. Didn't fully appreciate what I was doing while I was doing it. And I looked back kind of being like, that would have been cool to just kind of like look around and be like, yeah, you're running out of an NFL tunnel right now. That's kind of cool. So,
sure, but those checks aren't going to cash themselves, Sam.
Correct. You have to do what you have to do. Let's go ahead and get to some of the shade being thrown in the chat here. Let's see. We've got shade on the BVS in me that had me scared after Texas A&M started to come back last night. Jeff says, throwing shade on everyone who doesn't like the Hawk Tua girl.
Can't believe we read that one.
It's a meme. I don't know.
Yeah,
throwing shade at buying rookie NFL jerseys. Don't do it. I have a closet full of duds. That's probably a good tip from Jason there. Mostly QBs. Yeah, stick till somebody has that breakout season before you're dry.
But don't you want to just be like the first guy to have one? Like, I feel like because I've
done it, but I've also gotten burned by it. Like I was quick to buying that Justin Fields Bears jersey, and now I just have a jersey of a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. And like
this predates your time in Tennessee, but Tyrone Calico was a wide receiver, super fast wide receiver, right? That was from Middle Tennessee. Everybody was pulling for him. I wanted him to do well, and I wanted to have a Tyrone Calico jersey early so that when he would do well, I mean, it's pretty cool. Like one of the OG Tyrone Calico fans. Problem was he never did well.
Yeah, let's see. Ira Hoshi says, throwing shade on pricing of summer camps. Couldn't afford it this year, so I got my kids all summer. Summer camps. Yeah, I don't know what those cost. That's probably one of those things that is like weird. You don't know what they cost until you go to buy them, and then you go, whoa, that's more expensive than I thought. So shade on that. That shouldn't be that expensive. Everybody should have an opportunity to put their kids in summer camp and give themselves a break, give their kids that experience as well. Good shade. Justin says, Sam and Jack are a great duo. Good stuff, guys. He's throwing shade at the Oilers for failing the Flasher fan last night. Kind of a big womp, the Oilers.
Gosh.
I was excited. Connor McDavid coming back from 3-0, iconic hockey tournament, hockey playoffs, hockey Stanley Cup, big series, ends in a big womp with, all right, Florida wins. Nothing against Florida. That was just, a little
that
bit.
Could have been, though, up there on probably the Mount Rushmore of sporting events in my life, I think. Because, like, the Red Sox come back against the Yankees. I mean, LeBron 3-1 against the Warriors. Like, all these historic sports comebacks, I think that would have absolutely ranked up there because it hadn't been done since 1942. And McDavid,
number one comeback in hockey history. How many times in the last just 20, 30 years has there been a 3-0 in professional sports? Once.
Right. And game 7, no matter what sport it is, it could be game 7 of cornhole.
Dude, I'm going to be watching. I was praying for an Oilers goal there late in the third because the idea of getting overtime of game 7 of the Stanley Cup final would have just been the coolest thing ever that I'm still waiting to happen someday. Josh has thrown shade at the game of golf for being so challenging. I feel that. I've said it on the show. I've been trying to get out there a lot. Have been getting out there a lot, getting frustrated a lot, of course. Let's see. Throwing shade at electric bills during AC season. Truer words have never been spoken, Corey. Let's see. Hello, ladies. Shade at myself for peeing in the ocean instead of going in. I don't understand. Yeah, you go in. What are you doing? What are you doing? Shade. Let's see. Throwing shade.
That's controversial, though. I think that's controversial. I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody in this chat and maybe in front of a camera right now as well that hasn't gone pee in the ocean.
Yeah. Well,
look,
no comment. I plead the fifth. Justin says throwing shade at Mother Earth for the last week, feeling like Armageddon type heat on the East Coast. It feels like that everywhere right now. But yeah, I'm sure the East Coast is. The humidity is what always gets me down here in Nashville. All right, my shade. You redeemed yourself a little bit, Jack, but I'm throwing shade at you because you have not mentioned the championship. You have not mentioned the elephant in the room, the big championship that happened yesterday. The Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions.
That's right. Okay, there we go.
And you have failed to mention it. And I just wanted to get that out there that hand up, Jack did not mention the championship that happened in professional sports last night. And that was shade worthy to me that you hadn't done that, and that it felt like you were shying away from it a little bit. But I'm glad that you redeemed yourself late in the show and acknowledged the championship that happened yesterday.
Yeah, Florida Panthers fans, congratulations. You are the winners of Monday. Monday, what is this?
They stole
June 24th.
Florida
You were
Panthers
the center of
fans,
attention of the sporting world.
Yeah, Florida Panthers fans stole the night last night. You guys, take your victory lap. You own sports for the next, couple of weeks here. It's your time. It's your world. Every other sports fan is just living in it. So Florida Panthers, credit to you. And you're got to give you your flowers.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Panthers deserve it. Hard fought victory. Nobody thought that they would pull it off after blowing the other, the first three. Maybe there was a curse involved. I don't know. But hey, look,
it's rare that you get, a good night with like a really good championship game in professional sports. And yesterday we had one with the Panthers and Oilers. I don't know. I love a good day when champion is crowned, and I can't wait for the next one. But until then, hey, Panthers, it's all you, baby.
Panthers, your world. We're all just living in it.
Yeah. All right. That's about all we got today. I don't have anything. Do you have another game to mention or no?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. We are in the dog days.
The White Sox lost to the Dodgers last night, 3-0.
Yeah, no surprise there, really.
I don't know. Yeah, it is baseball season, but all right.
All right. Well, good show. Good show.
All I have to mention. All right, good show. Great show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow morning and Buck Rising tonight for A to Z Sports Prime Time. Keep it locked on A to Z Sports on social media for all of your engaging Titans content this offseason. Until next time, tighten up. We will see you later.
Tighten up pod out at midnight.